Welcome to AU Nation. I'm your host, Evan Blank, here to bring you the latest opinions from your Auburn Student Media Group. Joining me today first is Noah Gardner. He'll host GH Sports on WEGL 91.1 FM and calls Auburn softball for that station as well. Noah, how are you today?
I'm doing good, Evan. How are you?
Hey, can't complain. It's a great Wednesday here in Auburn. Got my days of the week mixed up. Next up is JJ Jackson. He's the host of Fast Break on WEGL 91.1 and is also an analyst on the Eagle Eye Sports Report. You can also hear him calling softball games for WEGL Radio as well. JJ, how are you today?
Evan, I'm doing well. Glad to be back on the show.
Love having you back. And finally is Jelani Baptiste. He hosts the fifth quarter on WEGL Radio. Jelani, great to have you back, my friend.
It's great to be back, man. It's been a while.
It has been a while. We love having you on. All right, now, on to our first topic within Auburn Athletics. And we begin with what else but football. The Auburn football team took to the plains this past Saturday for A-Day. How do you think the team looked in its first glimpse as we head into the fall season?
The thing about spring games, they're always weird because you want to see your offense put up 56 points, but if they do that, then your defense looks bad. So I think Auburn had a good mix. You saw some big runs from your running backs, Malik Miller. Chandler Cox, a fullback, put a pretty good run. Your defense, you saw a lot of pressure from your D-line. So, even though they were playing against the second-team O-line, your first-string D-line looked really good. Marlon Davidson, who would be in high school right now, had an amazing game. Darrell Williams made a pretty good tackle his first year getting some spring action. I think the defense looked pretty good. You still want to see more from your quarterbacks. They didn't really play their best. Sean White had a couple good passes. Jeremy had a couple good passes, but overall, Jeremy Johnson did not do enough for me. He looks like he would be third right now, and if I had made a depth chart. John Franklin, he had a couple runs that would maybe if it was live, he would have did a little bit better, but passing-wise, he didn't show me enough. So right now, I would say Sean White is the safest quarterback if you had to pick. But overall, I liked the pressure I saw from the D-line, and the linebackers played with instinct and they went to the ball and tackled and wrapped up. And I liked what I saw from the defense. I want to see a little bit more from our offense overall, especially the quarterback. They didn't give the receivers enough to show what they can do. But I do think that the first-team O-line with the middle of that offensive line looked amazing with Xavier Dampierre, Braden Smith, and Alex Kozan. Kozan was getting off the ball hard, and I haven't seen him play like that in a couple years.
I think that's a good way to put it, though, thinking about spring games and knowing that you're playing against your own teammates, and that's not always a good estimation of what your team's going to be. And so for Auburn, they're going to take away positives, but also, like you said, Jelani, there's areas that you want to improve going forward throughout this season. But overall, I think they're pleased with how A-Day went.
It's similar to basketball. You can't really take much away from exhibition games or the orange and blue game in basketball. Really, the only two things that I'm taking away of that look positive is Sean White really is the leading candidate at quarterback, and I think he's leaps and bounds ahead of the others because you kept hearing that Jeremy Johnson had his confidence back, same kind of stuff I heard last year in the summer, and he just didn't look like he had it in the spring game. And then John Franklin III, not far along in terms of being able to throw the football. Sean White able to do both, run and throw. He had some good runs in the game as well. And then the defensive side of the football, the defensive line, just manhandling. They look like they're going to be a force in the SEC, if not the best defensive line in the SEC.
Yeah, definitely. And if you just think about Byron Cowart, who was a five-star recruit last year, was third. He was the third defensive end coming out after Carl Lawson. You had Paul James III, who was just unrolled this spring. He was the third guy on that side of the line. That's just going to be a strong defensive line.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, the defense just really incredible. But I did really like the progression of Sean White into this game. It'll be interesting to see how he moves forward, non-injured, as he was injured for a decent amount of the season last year. All right, we move from football to softball. And the Auburn softball team was able to sweep Longwood this past weekend, but not without a little bit of fight along the way from the Lancers. What are your biggest takeaways for the team in this series? JJ, we'll start with you.
Once again, just finding the ability to win games, and really they're on a roll here with this winning streak that they've had, 3 straight series sweeps, 12 straight wins overall. And so my biggest takeaway is Longwood had a good pitching staff. They ranked 21st in the entire NCAA in terms of ERA Auburn's 5th and you're able to beat them in 3 consecutive games, that's a big step for you. You have this test kind of breaking up SEC play, and you don't want to slip up there, and Auburn didn't do that. They were able to sweep Longwood, and I'm pleased with that.
Auburn did a good job of finding ways to win, but I think this series really does continue to show us that their bats, quote unquote, are broken. They're not hitting the ball very well at the moment. I mean, they were out hit in the second game, the one that I called on Saturday, by Longwood. Even though Auburn still came out and won the game 5-2, they were still out hit in the hit column, and they're just not hitting the ball that well. They're taking advantage of opportunities as best as they can, but they're not. When they go back into SEC play and they face some more talented pitching staffs that they will have to face down the stretch, I mean, it's only getting harder from here. They've got a pretty tough end of the schedule for them. Nothing that they can't handle, but it really does look like the bats need to come more alive if they're going to compete when it gets to the SEC tournament, when they're inevitably, more than likely, will face Florida.
I definitely agree with what both of you were saying, but you think you have to acknowledge the fact that they are at least getting on base, even if it's not hits. They're getting walked, they're taking hits, they're getting hit by the ball. So you have to acknowledge that, and they are getting the timely hits. They may not be getting the hits that a couple home runs and win by 20, but they're still getting the hits and they're getting the runs across that they need to win that game. Like JJ said, they Longwood had the 21st overall pitching staff in the NCAA ERA-wise. That's pretty impressive. There's not many higher than that in the SEC alone. Auburn right now, you've got to look at the team and say, okay, what can we do to maybe generate more runs like how we were doing earlier in the season? They shook up the lineup a couple times. You still have Casey Cooper and Emily Caravassoni, Jade Rose. Those guys are still doing the usual, not as much as they were at the beginning of the season, but I think the biggest thing for Auburn is when they get Haley Fagan back, they needed that extra bat in the lower part of the lineup to get that protection so that they can get through that lineup and be able to have no worries about getting a hit anywhere in there.
Yeah, so you guys talked about how Longwood's got that 21st best pitching staff, but that's still a Big South team. And I know it's a tougher team in those lower conferences, but do you see this as still any sort of concern just because it was that sort of lower tier type team?
For me, I don't think so. When you look at college baseball and college softball, the smaller teams are just as good. The number, was it, I think 4 team in the nation right now, University of Louisiana Lafayette. Mm-hmm. So, smaller teams are able to compete in softball and baseball more so than football and basketball. You see a little bit in basketball, but I don't think that being a Big South team or not passing the name test, I don't think that really concerns me as much.
Definitely heading into this series, I knew that it was going to be difficult for Auburn, hands down. I mean, when I saw those statistics on Longwood's pitching staff, I knew that it was going to be a hard time for them because they've had troubles all year long with cashing in on runs. And I think it's just, once again, the monotonous highlighting of Auburn's failure to be able to cash in repeatedly throughout this year. I think it should be a wake-up call for them, if anything, when it gets to later on in the year when they will have to face the Floridas, the Tennessees, and possibly Alabama in the SEC tournament. And then when you get to the regionals, I mean, it only gets tougher, and they have to find a way to get the bats going if they're going to do anything better than they did last year, which is this year try to make the actual World Series.
I would just say if you can pitch, then you can pitch. And numbers aside, the fact that they do have that ERA, the fact that they are able to keep the runs, not allow that many runs against their competition was impressive. And so for Auburn to, like you said, Noah, find different ways to win, get runners home, that's what's important, getting those wins and keeping the momentum going throughout the rest of the season.
Definitely.
All right. That's it for Auburn Athletics. We're moving and expanding to the national sports scene next on AU Nation. You're watching Eagle Eye TV, Channel 6.
Boys will be boys.
Well, she was drunk.
Well, he was drunk.
She was asking for it. He warned her.
Not my problem.
Why doesn't she just leave? But he's such a nice guy.
He said he was sorry.
We don't talk about that. It's just the way people are.
We're never going to fix it.
No more excuses.
No more silence.
No more violence.
It's time to end domestic violence and sexual assault once and for all.
We are back on AU Nation, and we now welcome in CJ Holmes. He's a writer for the Plainsman and a former member of the Auburn basketball team. CJ, thanks for being back with us today. How are you?
Good, always a pleasure.
Hey, we love having you on. All right, the analysts are set, and it's time for the national sports scene, and we begin in the NBA. And the Golden State Warriors are looking destiny directly in the eyes tonight as they take on the Memphis Grizzlies. Last time up, the Warriors escaped 100-99. Can the Warriors make history tonight? CJ, we'll start with you.
I think when history's on the line, something like this, playing on their home floor, I really think that it's going to be all Warriors tonight. You know, they're on their home floor, and although Memphis, they are a tough team to play. You know, Mike Conley Jr., Marcus Gasol, I'm not even sure if they're healthy or not, or if they're active for this game. But history on the line, you know, Memphis is going to do everything they can to play the spoiler. But at the end of the day, it's just going to be too much Curry, too much Thompson. And Warriors are going to history.
Yeah, the fact that the Warriors are at home, I don't think Memphis stands a chance. Mike Conley and Marc Gasol are both out for this game. And so, granted, Memphis played them tough 2 nights ago in Memphis. Playing in front of that crowd in Oracle, that's just so tough to do. And like you said, when you have a record that's been there for a while, and when you think about the legacies that Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, that entire Bulls team have, this team wants that record, and I don't think there's anybody that could stop them from getting that tonight.
Yeah, not a chance they lose tonight at all against this team. They're going to throttle them. It was close the last time they played, but it's not going to be close this time. They've got a chance tonight to be remembered as the greatest team of all time. I think if they win tonight and then go on and win the finals, which I don't think anybody's going to argue with me about that one, this squad will be remembered as the greatest of all time, and rightfully so.
Yeah, I think what everybody's forgetting is they played earlier on this season. They won by 50.
Yeah.
Yeah. 50 points. And I think it's going to be, I don't think it's going to be 50, but I'd see a double-digit victory here. Like you said, playing in Oracle Arena is difficult. Golden State, they do a great job there. They lost those 2 games, but, you know, they fixed that. They're getting it right. They're going to win this game, and it's going to be a blowout. And I think Steph Curry is going to have a big game because he wants that 400 three-pointers in a season.
Right.
So I think he's going to have a pretty big game tonight.
And you talk about losing those 2 games at home. The Celtics played them really tough, but when you look at that Minnesota Timberwolves loss, the Warriors beat themselves in that game. They had something like 23 or 24 turnovers. They can't win basketball games doing that way. If they're playing their game, nobody's going to beat them.
Definitely.
Yeah, you have no idea how excited I am for this game tonight. I don't watch a whole lot of NBA regular season games, but this is the one. The worst part is if they lose, we're going to get like billions of those stupid crying Jordan memes.
Absolutely.
And it'll actually make sense for once because it's the Bulls record. But I'm excited. But they are bumping my boy Kobe to ESPN too. And speaking of Kobe, also tonight Kobe Bryant plays his last ever game in the NBA against the Utah Jazz. What is the best way for Kobe to end his illustrious career? Jelani, we'll start with you.
You know, I want to see him win, first of all. It's his last game. I want to see Kobe get at least one more victory. And honestly, his last game, he scored 33 points. I want to see another 40-point game from Kobe. I want to see vintage Mamba out there just scoring, just driving to the basket, maybe a dunk if his knees are feeling it. You know, I just want to see Kobe go out and just have a good game.
It starts with the win. I want to see the Lakers win this game for him, obviously. And I'm looking forward to the ovation that he's going to get from that Staples Center crowd when the clock hits 0. I don't mind if Kobe shoots 50 shots tonight. I just want him to go out, see if he's still got it in him, and let him enjoy this last game.
Yeah, they got to win. They cannot send Kobe out with a loss. That would be terrible. And also, I kind of want to see him be taken out with like 30 seconds left in the game just to hear that ovation, just to see everybody stand up, clap for him, have the players clap for him, pull him off to the bench, just all that. I want to see that tonight.
Same thing along the lines of what you guys are saying. The best way to honor the Mamba is to go out with a win.
Yeah.
And they've reported that Byron Scott's going to extend his minutes, let him off the leash, and let's enjoy watching Mamba for the last time, and hopefully the Lakers get a win, send them off the right way.
Yeah, I'm worried about this because correct me if I'm wrong, but don't the Jazz still have a playoff seeding to play for? They're not locked in to their seeding, are they?
They have to win. If they have to win, and Houston has to lose if they want to get into the playoffs.
That's brutal.
So
that's
they have something to play
for
for sure.
All right. Well, we stick with the NBA, and the NBA Finals are near, and the seeding is almost set. Who are your favorites to make it to the NBA Finals? Noah, we'll start with you.
I got a Warriors-Cavs rematch. I think everybody can agree here on this panel that's probably going to be the Warriors from the West. It gets a little bit trickier when you're looking at the East. I think the Cavs are beatable. Not by the Raptors, though. I think the Celtics are the one team that I would be able to pick as a dark horse in the East just because of how well they're able to play defense. Their defense doesn't take any nights off. The question is, can they get the offense going to be able to take the Cavs in 7? And I don't think they can do that, so I'm still going with the Cavs to make it. But by far, it'll be a great finals to see that rematch.
Yeah, I think the Warriors are the favorites in the West, and I agree with you there, Noah. And like you said with Cleveland, I think Cleveland returns to the finals and we'll have a rematch. LeBron James over these past 3 games is shooting over 70% from the field, and he's posted over 30 points in all that games. He's never done that before. So LeBron is playing his best basketball of the season right now, getting in the rhythm, heading into the playoffs, and that's something Cleveland needs. And when they're playing like they did the past couple of nights, nobody in the East can beat Cleveland.
You know, last season in the finals, a lot of people said that it would have been a lot different outcome, maybe if Kyrie Irving was healthy.
Right.
Well, Kyrie Irving is healthy this year, and you know, God willing, he makes it all. That team makes it to the finals. You know, Kyrie has the offensive ability to give Golden State some serious trouble in a 7-game series.
The problem is Cleveland doesn't have the defense to be able to keep up, and that's the only way you beat the Warriors is if you can play defense almost perfectly. They'll still score 100 points if you do that, and then you got to have the offense to keep up. So we'll see.
Yeah, I definitely agree with all 3 of you. I think it's going to be a Golden State-Cleveland matchup again. As you said about Boston, I think this is a team that should be a dark horse. I can't say they're going to win. This team reminds me of a couple years ago when they had Rajon Rondo and they went to 7 games. I think it's going to be a really good playoff series for the Cavaliers. They're going to play good. I don't think, though, that anybody in the East is going to beat them, and the Warriors just they're they're there. They should win this.
Yeah, I got Warriors, Cavs too. Back in the, you guys talk about Boston. Another team I think people aren't giving enough credit to is a team like Miami in the East that can give them trouble. You got D Wade still out there. I know Bosh is out, but honestly, I think the Heat offense runs a little better with Bosh out, at least right now. Whiteside, Dragic, Winslow's playing well. So I think the Cavs are going to have a little tougher road than they typically do, for sure. All right, but we move on to Major League Baseball, and it just started up and a few games are in the books. Who are your favorites, your early favorites, to make it to the Fall Classic? JJ, we'll start with you.
Well, in the National League, I like the Cubs. I just think that this team is too loaded. They're 6-1 on the year right now. It was a terrible loss for them when Kyle Schwarber tore his ACL because that guy can mash the baseball and he hits it forever far. And so that dynamic that he adds to their lineup. But this offseason, adding a guy like Jason Hayward to your lineup with the young players around him and that pitching staff improved when you've got Arrieta, John Lester, John Lackey, just they're so deep. I think that the Cubs are going to represent the National League in the World Series. And in the American League, I wouldn't be surprised if Kansas City gets back there. They're playing good baseball to begin the start of the year. It's the same team that's been to the World Series the past 2 years. I like them to go back.
Yeah, I definitely agree on the Royals standpoint. It's the same team. They've been there the last 2 years, and I don't think anybody in the American League made enough moves to improve to knock them off. And until I see a team make some trades at the deadline to get better, I don't think that anybody's going to beat the Royals. But for me in the National League, I believe the Giants are the team to beat. It's an even year.
Absolutely.
So got to acknowledge that they win on even
Past
years.
3 even
But
years, yep.
Jeff Samardzija, Matt Cain, Madison Bumgarner, there's so many people. That pitching staff is amazing.
And Johnny Cueto.
Oh, Johnny Cueto, exactly. You have to be able to pitch. And they have 4 or 5 guys right now that can pitch any day. And I think that with that and their batting lineup, they should be a pretty good team. And I think they're going to be really hard to beat in October.
Yeah, Jelani, I agree with you. I mean, the road in October is painted by great pitching. I mean, you have to have a wonderful staff and also a wonderful bullpen to be able to succeed in October. And so I like the Giants, but I'm also going to stick with one of my preseason favorites, the Red Sox, because I think they actually made the moves they needed to improve not only their bullpen, but also the starting pitching staff. And so I think that coupled with the good hitting that they have in their lineup, the Red Sox will be able to find a way.
And they want Big Papi to win one more before he leaves.
Absolutely.
Great pitching wins baseball games in October. And the Washington Nationals have one of the best pitching staffs in all of baseball. And if they can just get some hitting outside of Bryce Harper to back that up, I think they've had a talented team each of the last 3-4 seasons. Hopefully this could be the year they can put it all together and get it done.
Getting a guy like Daniel Murphy has already paid dividends off for Washington, and so someone to back up and protect Bryce Harper in the order is going to be good for the Nationals going forward.
Yep.
Should be a fun baseball season. I think that we can all agree, though, that no matter what happens, the Dodgers are going to choke in the playoffs. So that is it for this national block. Coming up next, we got a fun one. It's Fill in the Blank. You don't want to miss that. It's AU Nation on Eagle Eye TV, Channel 6.
From the moment we met, I knew we belonged together. I could tell right from the start that I was melting your heart, purring while you pet me, winding around your feet, and getting to just chill out with you. It felt perfect. But I don't know what just happened. Why am I in a cage, and who are these other sad animals? Where am I? They say I might get a new home. How can I get a new home when our bond was so special? What did I do wrong? How can you have given me up?
Welcome back to AU Nation, and it is now time to play Fill in the Blank. I'll give the analysts a sentence, and they simply have to fill in the blank. Simple, right? We'll see how their verbiage is. Let's get started. First up, Josh Gordon failed another drug test. This situation is just blank. Jelani, we'll start with you.
Not surprising. He's already failed multiple drug tests up to this point. I was kind of defending him earlier on with the first one, maybe the second one. But at this point, it's just like you have to man up, make the decision. If you really want to continue playing football, then you need to just stop doing what you're doing. Stop smoking weed and just, pay attention. Follow the rules and stop doing dumb things.
The entire situation is just very sad to me. Because a couple of seasons ago, Josh Gordon became the first receiver in NFL history to have back-to-back 200-yard games. The talent is there. The guy is an amazing talent. 4.4 speed. What is he, 6'5"? Yeah. Incredible talent. But the thing is, he just can't get out of his own way. And it's just sad to see so many guys go down that route when they have so much talent, so much going for them. Now, granted, a lot of guys have, everyone has different things going on in their lives, different challenges and trials and tribulations. But at the same time, football is his job. Football is what puts food on the table for him and his family. And if Josh Gordon wants to have a future in football, he's going to have to start prioritizing.
My word would be unfortunate, and for what you said, that's his job. That's what puts food on the table for his family. To have that much talent and to just throw it all the way is just unfortunate.
I would say monotonous. This situation, we keep hearing this is like the fourth time now. I'm getting tired of hearing about it. It's not news. Take it off. I don't want to hear about it anymore.
All right. Next up, Aqib Talib called Brock Osweiler a backup quarterback. Is he right or wrong? I think he is blank. CJ, we'll start with you.
I think he's right on target. A lot of teams throw all this money to these unproven quarterbacks, and Osweiler has a very, very small sample of playing time in this league. So in all reality, Houston, they don't know what they're going to get. What happens if Osweiler goes out there on opening day and throws 3 interceptions? They're going to be buying themselves, and Denver's going to be like, wow, I'm glad we moved in a different direction. So until proven otherwise, Osweiler is still a backup quarterback in my eyes.
Well, under that definition, Peyton Manning's not a starting quarterback. Technically, he's not anymore, but he was doing that when he was starting. I think that he is wrong. Obviously, Brock Osweiler is a starting quarterback because he will be starting. And I think he's got a lot of potential. Okay, he may not be great right off the bat, but he's got a lot of potential. And if they can surround him with the right pieces, he can succeed in Houston.
I think Aqib Talib is right for what you were saying, that he's just unproven. When he had his opportunity with Denver, he didn't take care of that, or didn't take advantage of that opportunity and secure that starting job. And so if you're the Houston Texans, you're betting a lot on a guy like Brock Osweiler for a team that is so desperate to get back and compete in the AFC South. I
agree with CJ and JJ. Like you said, he hasn't done anything. He hasn't proved enough. When he played, he only played in 2 or 3 games. He did not show enough to, be considered a starting quarterback in this league. And, Houston has a history of doing this, signing guys that sat the bench on other teams.
Just last season,
Brian Hoyer, Matt Schaub, they've done it numerous times, and it has not panned out, and I don't think it will pan out here. He has the size. He's a big guy. I think he has the potential, but I don't think he's starting quarterback right off the beginning. He should have sat maybe another year if possible, but hey, they have no choice. They paid him a lot, so he has to start this upcoming year.
And just one last thing to mention, you got to think about who this is coming from. This is coming from Aqib Talib, a guy who runs his mouth a lot already. So you have to take that with a grain of salt and know that, this is a former teammate saying, hey, I just view him as a backup quarterback.
But I want to pose a question to you guys. If he had stayed in Denver, would this have changed your opinions whatsoever about whether he'd be considered starting quarterback? Because you got to remember, were they really going to keep him starting over Peyton Manning in Peyton Manning's final season?
No,
or presumed final season.
They definitely wouldn't have started him over Peyton Manning, but at the same time, I still don't think that he should have been the guy to start right away without any type of competition.
Well, it was looking like he was going to be.
Exactly, and I don't think he should be the guy without competition. He has not proven it.
And there's a reason why Denver didn't want to pay him the money he asked for.
Definitely.
You know, Denver obviously, like I said, he's in their organization. You know, although he has been successful for them in spurts, you know, they obviously saw something that's like, hey, let's not give this guy this much money right off the bat until he shows us a little bit more.
All right. Finally, our last one. With the NBA season coming to a close, I think that blank was the most surprising team this year. Noah, we'll start with you.
The Spurs. You know, the way they ended their playoff run last year was not indicative that they were going to come out here and win more than 60 games this season. I mean, they're having a year like the Warriors had last year with even older players, much older players. And I don't think anybody was expecting the Spurs to be able to do what they're doing. And just a couple days ago, I was believing that maybe they could go to the finals. And I still think it'll be a wonderful series to watch between them and the Warriors. It will go to 7, but they will not be in the NBA Finals.
My opinion, I think the most surprising team this year has to be the Boston Celtics. I mean, Brad Stevens has that group overachieving massively. And who would have thought that Isaiah Thomas, out of all people, would emerge as an all-star this year? And, you know, in that system in Boston, he now has a chance to be a perennial all-star because, you know, he's really the only person on the roster right now who's scoring the basketball with any type of consistency. So I just think it's awesome how going into this season, you know, everyone wrote the Celtics off immediately. You know, it's going to be another lottery year for the Celtics. And now you look up, Celtics are, what, a top 5 seed in the Eastern Conference now, and they're a dark horse to make it to the NBA Finals in a year where, once again, in the Eastern Conference, everyone's beatable, especially the Cavaliers sitting at the top of the conference.
Go ahead.
My team, I think the Houston Rockets are the biggest surprise. After going to the Western Conference Finals last year, they are barely trying to make the playoffs. They have to win out, and they have to have Utah lose. I don't think they're going to win, and I don't think they're going to make it to the playoffs. And that's, you were in the Western Conference Finals last year. You have your same team back. You still have 2 superstars, Dwight Howard and James Harden, on your team. There's no reason you should not be in the playoffs. You fired your coach at the beginning of the season. You just got to start over.
Yeah, they jumped the gun on that.
They did.
4 for 4 on choosing different teams. I think that the Portland Trail Blazers were the most surprising team in the NBA this season. If you would have told me prior to the start of the season that this team would finish 5th in the Western Conference, I would want to know what happened, because Portland lost 4 of their 5 starters.
Decimated their
handed the keys of their franchise to a 6-foot guard in Damian Lillard. He took his play to the next level. C.J. McCollum stepped up, and then if you see what they did in free agency, bringing a bunch of role players like Mason Plumlee, like Al-Farouq Aminu, like Ed Davis together to create new roles for them, what they've been able to do is so impressive, and you have to give credit to Terry Stotts and that coaching staff.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think my most surprising team in the NBA this year, and I'm sort of going to go the route that Jelani did for underachieving team. The Pelicans were so bad this year.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, people had hopes, you know, Anthony Davis maturing a little more, 8 seed last year, and then this year they were just awful. So Pelicans, another disappointing team, but the Rockets are a good one too. All right, that's it for Fill in the Blank. I hope you liked the vocabulary of our analyst. Coming up next, it's our burning question. It's on those pesky satellite camps in the NCAA. We'll see what our analysts have to say about that next on AU Nation Eagle Eye TV, Channel 6.
Families come in all sizes and shapes. Sometimes your friends are your family by choice, or sometimes you're just stuck with Uncle Charles. But what we know is that you want to protect the people that are close to you, but the flu can unravel everything. Your flu vaccine protects you and your family. No matter what draws your family together, protect yourself, protect your family. Everyone needs a flu vaccine.
Welcome back to AU Nation on Eagle Eye TV, Channel 6, and it is time to end the show, and we always do it with our burning question, and it is NCAA football. The NCAA has recently banned satellite camps for college football teams. These camps became a huge topic of discussion when some schools, a big example being Michigan, went to the South to conduct some camps hoping to attract recruits to their college. The SEC, ACC, Pac-12, and Big 12 voted against satellite camps, while the Big Ten was the only power conference to vote for the camps. Do you think the NCAA was right in banning these satellite camps immediately? Analysts, take it away.
You know, I'm torn here because the satellite camps does give a lot of good exposure for the players that probably won't get recruited, but they have a couple big name guys on their team, so schools are going to invite them, and by inviting them, they invite the rest of their team. So I'm a little torn, but I do think that banning it is good because a lot of the smaller schools, if you have to worry about already, let's say Troy for an example, you have to worry about out recruiting all of the SEC and the ACC and even some of the Big 12. Imagine when schools like Michigan, Ohio State are coming down and having satellite camps in Georgia and Alabama. How do you compete? How do you get players, that aren't just not good? You can still potentially steal a couple players that are maybe under-recruited or undervalued. I think banning it hurts the players some, but I think it helps the rest of the smaller teams more so than it hurts the bigger teams.
I would agree with you. I'm torn because of the fact, like you said, the smaller schools can't compete financially. But for the bigger schools, it's such a bonus for those players. Say you're in Alabama and coaches from Michigan are coming down. That's a way for you to connect with those coaches. That's a way to say, hey, would I be comfortable going up and playing football in Michigan for a guy like Coach Harbaugh? So for that reason, I thought the satellite camp was a great idea. But then when you tell me about the fact that the smaller schools can't compete financially, that's when it gets tricky and that's when it's hard to make a decision.
Well, I want to point out the interesting fact that nobody else is that the Big Ten was the only one to vote for it. None of the other major conferences wanted it. And that's just because the Big Ten is not in a good pipeline.
Right.
There's just inferior athletes compared to other pipelines that those other schools are in. I mean, the Pac-12 has California, the Big 12 has Texas, the Southeast has Florida and Georgia. The ACC can tap into Georgia and Florida as well. I mean, it's just a classic case of schools looking out for their own interests. Personally, I wouldn't ban them entirely. I would just regulate them and make you have to have, stay in state. You can have multiple areas that you can, like Auburn could go up to Tuscaloosa if they want to and have a camp there rather than just have to stay in Auburn. But I agree with you guys for the same reasons about the small schools, though, too. If they don't want to do just in-state, ban them altogether.
I agree. Don't ban them altogether. Just regulate them a little better. Like you were saying, it's tough for the small schools to really get the athletes that they really want to because of these satellite camps. But at the same time, they do serve their purpose for the schools that they do help. So for the schools who do want these satellite camps, these Big Ten schools, don't cut them off completely. Because like you said, they are in a bad pipeline. They need better athletes, and they should be able to set up camps and things like that in order to get those athletes to come to their program.
Definitely. I agree with the idea of maybe in-state, but for me, more so than in-state, probably a radius. So let's say it's a 100-mile radius from your campus. You can go anywhere around it, more so than just in-state, because in-state people, they're probably already coming to your camp regardless. So, let's say you're at a school like Ohio. You could do the radius. You can get somebody from Illinois, or maybe you can go visit Chicago. So I think maybe a radius would work a little bit better for me, but I guess banning it does hurt a lot of the players in small schools.
Yeah, something I saw that was interesting the other day, David Shaw, Stanford coach, who's one of my favorite coaches, was talking about satellite camps, and he was saying how he doesn't really see a point for at least him and his team going down to Florida or Texas or something like that, because only a few players are going to even be eligible to go to Stanford, which obviously to the shock of no one, Paul Feinbaum jumped on him because how dare you wear red and not be Alabama. But I just thought that was an interesting take on that because a lot of it is about, these in-state schools, having an advantage over their recruits. And I think that, it should be kept that way, and it's an interesting thing. All right. Analysts, thank you very much for your opinions today. We always love having you guys on. But that is it for AU Nation today. Make sure you go to eagleeyetv.com for more of AU Nation. I'm Evan Blank, and remember next time, Auburn, these young guys are out here playing checkers, and I'm out here playing chess. Same time, same place. We'll see you next week.